stuff. If you want to sign up on our email list at the front of the store, we'll send you an email every week about what's going on here. We try not to spam people and tell them, but if there's important stuff going around the city, we also try to put out some action alerts that you can go and either testify at City Hall or go to a protest that's important. And so we really try to keep it limited, but we have lots of events, so please try to sign up on the email list. I'll stop talking here and introduce our speaker. We have Lucas. Lucas is a one-time, he can tell you a little bit about his history, he's a one-time documentary filmmaker and researcher in the 9/11 area, and that's how he first was introduced to me and the store. He made a film called The Ultimate Con. You can go on YouTube, right? It's still up there, right? It had one of the largest hit ratios for 9/11 films for a little while there.
Yeah, so it's actually the most watched YouTube video of all time on 9/11.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That was a good film, and we used to burn it and hand it out to people. It was a good introduction to the topic. But I hadn't seen him in a while. Since then, he sort of dropped off the map. And then he's come back, and he told me a very interesting story about what he's been researching as of late. And at first I was very skeptical, and I refused to believe any of it. And then he showed me some of it in his presentation that he's going to share with you tonight. And I felt it was compelling enough that other people need to see it, and so I wanted to schedule him a night where he could show it. I'm so glad so many people took the opportunity to come out and listen. So anyway, without further ado, let's welcome Lucas.
First, I'll tell you that I created this presentation for my friends. I didn't really create it for a public presentation. This was just something I did so I can show my friends what was going on. So with that in mind, I know a big question is going to be when. I can't answer that. Soon. I could say soon, but I cannot say when. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out. How many of y'all saw the Norway spiral? All right, so only a few of you actually saw the Norway spiral. All right. Back when Barack Obama got his Peace Prize in Norway, this appeared in the air, okay? And here's the video of it. Now, keep in mind that this was seen by thousands of Norwegians, and basically they tried to dismiss it as a Russian rocket. Okay, now ask yourself, would the Russians really launch a rocket over the head of a president while he was in Norway? I mean, if they would the news be talking about it every day? Was the president's life in danger? Okay, well, so you have this. Well, they did a really good job. I think this is one of the best jobs that the mainstream media has ever done in keeping something quiet, because very few people know about this. And I'm not going to get in. This presentation is pretty much all fact. I'm not going to get into my own personal beliefs about this stuff. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you all facts, and then from there you all can put the pieces together how you want. So, if you come up here, you look, this is what was pictured. There's thousands of pictures of it now. This orange right here, the sun is about to rise. This was at about 8 o'clock in the morning in Norway. Oh. I can speak up, or I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't care.
When your head turns, though, your voice
will
okay,
catch
sorry.
On there.
I can hear you good, back.
What about us old people in there? Right. If he's right up to me.
There we go.
Okay. All right. I don't think you're that old.
No. Just premature.
All right, so I had been researching. I started out with 9/11, and then I figured that, and then once I realized that, you know, all these things were a big diversion to try and keep our minds off something, I started researching why. And the only place that I could find out any answers was from the ancients. The ancient Indians and people of the world, they went out of their way to try and warn us about something in the future. Let's get this all.
Put it close here. Yes, you know.
Done.
Done.
There we go. All right.
Could you move a little bit back this way, though, just to make the... Well, I mean, the whole thing behind me, I'm sure, is in the same position. I can lean forward and they can't.
All right, there we go. Cool, perfect. All right, so we had this object that appeared. They tried to dismiss it as a Russian rocket. For a month, you couldn't even find a picture of this on Google Images. You type in Norway spiral, and it would not pull up one single image of this. So I started doing a research into it. And, well, actually, I was already doing a research into the ancient petroglyphs and stuff. And what I found is that, as soon as this subject wants to get through this little loading process here.
What's a heteroglyph?
A petroglyph like this. I found that these things, these spirals, were everywhere, all across the world. You see the one on his chest there? You see that one there? You see all these spirals everywhere. Now keep in mind that these things, like for instance this one here, they show it next to a dead lizard. Most of these things are associated with death. They see the wave going up to the mountain, the deer and the people running away from it, the dead fish. So, these are all different, various cave drawings. Now you see in this one, you have the spirals, you have dead trees, you got waves.
How old are these supposed to be?
They vary, usually around 3,600, 3,800 years old. These are found mostly, let me show you down here, right here. If you look at the map, you'll notice that these spiral petroglyphs are found in the mountains only. You don't find them in this part of the country barely, just a couple places. Same thing with over in Asia. They're found in the mountainous areas. And so, you notice these things everywhere. Literally, if you go onto Google Images and you type spiral petroglyph, you will pull up thousands of these. For instance, here's a good one where they show the spiral and they show people guarding their head. They were trying to tell us something. And these people were not propagandized by Fox News or any of that, so they're probably the only trustworthy people in the world.
That's right. No commercial sponsor.
Okay. So, what I did is I took the spiral, which the normal of the Blu-ray would go this way. I put it in this position because if we saw it from a different perspective, say it was on the other side of the world, that's what it might look like, just like this guy here with the line coming through. So, what we're going to get into, this was just a basic introduction to it. This is a pretty in-depth presentation. This is a chart I've worked on for almost 5 years. This is the history for the last 500,000 years of the glaciation of the planet. You see we have 80,000...
Glaciation?
Yeah, basically the ice ages.
What?
The ice ages. Okay, so... I'll put this up a little bit. There we go. Alright, so you notice that we have 80,000 year ice ages and 20,000 year warm periods. We are right here in this warm period. Okay, and we've already extended our welcome in this warm period. The ice age has long been overdue for a couple thousand years. What this is here is this is actually our period that we're in right now. You'll notice that 3,600 years ago, you had the collapse of many different societies across the world, whether it be in China with the Zia dynasty. You had Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed, the fall of Jericho, the Exodus. You have the Mayan calendar actually starts then. Okay, the Indus Valley people of India, their civilization died off. Same with the Soup civilization. All right. The first Babylonian dynasty ended, and then the actual Babylon that we now started. The Middle Kingdom of Egypt ended, and the Minoans all ended at that time period. Now, if you go back another time period, there's not very many records of human existence back then, but 3,600 years later, we had all these natural disasters, and also the Byzantine calendar, which is the basis for the calendar for the Christian religion, started right at this time period. If you go back another 3,600 years, is when Plato dates Atlantis sinking too. Okay, and then you go back another 3,600 years, and you also had the end of the saber-toothed tiger, the Irish giant deer, all the big mammals of the world basically came to an end. Also, you notice in here, what I'm going to do in this, there's so much information here, I can't completely go over it with everybody. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of breeze over it. I'm going to let y'all have a disc and take it home, and then you can. It's going to take you a couple weeks to go through all this stuff.
Wow.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Basically, so you've got all these different. Okay. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting. All right. December 1981, Astronomy magazine. They're looking for an elusive planet much larger than Earth. They've known it's been there because French astronomer with the calculations found out that Uranus and Neptune had a little dimple in their orbits. So they surmised that there's some other planet out there. So they've been looking for this planet since the early '80s. So you have the different articles here from New York Times, Newsweek. They launched the. Let me find the one I want to get here. Does the sun have a dark companion? This odd behavior suggests that the sun has an unseen companion, a dark star gravitationally bound to it but billions of miles away, or a 10th planet 47 billion miles away. So, if you come down here, they found it. They launched the IRIS. The IRIS is an infrared telescope. Okay, its mission lasted 10 months. I don't know if it was a coincidence, but it stopped on November 22nd, which we all know what that day is.
What is that?
That's the day that Kennedy was assassinated. Not that particular day, but November 22nd. Made headlines briefly with the discovery of an unknown object that was first described as possibly as large as the giant planet Jupiter and is possibly so close to Earth it would be part of our own solar system. So, they made this discovery, and then they announced it. Orbiting Eye reveals mystery space monster. This was in the Washington Post. Heavenly body is possibly the largest Jupiter. Now keep in mind, it says, have been found in the direction of the constellation Orion. Okay? Remember Orion, because it's going to come into play. As close to Earth as 50 billion miles. So they announced what they found. And then in what is this, the 1987 New Science and Invention Encyclopedia, they actually showed you that they were sending a Pioneer spacecraft out to look at the dead star and the 10th planet. This was right in the encyclopedia. This is a scan right out of it. So they made all these big announcements. And then all of a sudden, they just shut up about it. All of a sudden, it just stopped. So in the 80s, 1980, how many of you are familiar with the Georgia Guidestones? Pretty much everybody? Yeah, okay. What we're going to concentrate on here is one thing, that word right there, maintain. You all know that the elites are so hubris, if they wanted to reduce population, they would just say, reduce population. Okay, maintain is a word that means after the fact. It's something that happens after an event. They want to maintain humanity after a certain event. These are how big the Georgia Guidestones are. They're written in 10 different languages.
Who built those?
Unknown.
Oh. What country are they in?
The United States.
Georgia.
They're in Georgia.
Oh, yeah.
And basically the story behind this, right here is the whole story. Wired Magazine did an in-depth article about it. They sent some reporters down there. The guy that went in to pay for this, he paid $1.6 million and had this thing built, and he wanted it to withstand big waves and earthquakes and high winds and all that stuff. Okay, so, and he also instructed it, he wanted it to be a timepiece. The astronomic features basically so that if there was any kind of shift of the world, of our poles or anything, that they could recalibrate how much time is in a day. So in the Guidestone you have this, oh, this mouse here. Sorry. You have this hole through the side which actually puts a dial exactly noon every day. So it allows them to be able to recalibrate. Now you also notice the date on here, March 22nd. Okay? That day comes into play with the Skull and Bones once again. That's their official number there, 322. Here you have our friend Mr. Prescott Bush, that was one of the Skull members there. Yeah. So, and then you have good old Georgie with his Freemason buddies. So here's the article on that. You can read up about all this. I highlighted all the important stuff in red. All right. Move on to the next thing. So, 1982, what happens? They deregulated the economy because they knew they had to create endless funds in order to prepare for this event. So, during the Reagan administration, they basically deregulated. I mean, this is the Dow index right here. You can see where they basically opened up the floodgates to allow the powers that be to create endless amounts of funds. So, we had the Rex 84 program. Here's a video about that. I'm going to play it real quick.
Reagan was elected to the presidency. He installed Louis Giuffrida as head of FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency. Gianfrida was an old cold warrior from Reagan's California days, whose specialty was suppression of unrest and dissent. Gianfrida, North, and George Bush began to turn FEMA into an instrument of domestic anti-terrorism.
You're dealing with a group of people in the Reagan administration who equated political dissent with treason, and who can not differentiate between emergency procedures, which I think everyone agrees are necessary, and suppressing political dissent. And with North and Poindexter and Casey, you had a group of people who saw Americans who disagree with them as the enemy.
Colonel North, in your work at the NSC, were you not assigned at one time to work on plans for the continuity of government in the event of a major disaster?
Mr. Chairman.
I believe that the question touches upon a highly sensitive and classified area, so may I request that you not touch upon that, sir?
I was particularly concerned, Mr. Chairman, because I read in Miami papers and several others that there had been a plan developed by that same agency, a contingency plan in the event of emergency that would suspend the American Constitution. And I was deeply concerned about it and wondering if that was the area in which he had worked. I
most respectfully request that that matter not be touched upon at this stage. If we wish to get into this, certain arrangements can be made for an executive session.
And tragically, the only member who got close was Jack Brooks, and he was stopped by the chairman.
So, you see that Rex 84 was the short for the Readiness Exercise 1904 is a plan by the United States federal government to test their ability to detain large numbers of refugees and American citizens in case of civil unrest or national emergency. They launched Fox back in 1986. Basically, Fox is a shoot-off company from the Sun Pictorial, which is actually founded September 11th, 1922. Fox. Some of you are not old enough, but some of you are old enough to understand how television changed after Fox came into the picture. Okay, network television kind of had morals at some point, and then all of a sudden Fox came in with their Married with Children, and everything changed after that. All the other networks had to keep up with them, with their on-the-edge type of programming. So Fox made a big dent in the way things work and with the media. So Iraq invades. What a lot of people don't know is that there's a pretty good indication that they were set up, because right beforehand, Saddam Hussein met with our ambassador, and he said, we do not, let's see here, he said, but we have no opinion on Arab conflicts. Yada, yada, yada. Anyway, they basically said, we're going to turn our backs while you do what you do. And as soon as they invaded, we acted like they were the worst enemy in the world.
So Kuwait was slant drilling into Iraq.
Yeah, well, that's what was said, was that Kuwait was slant drilling underneath the border into Iraqi oil, and that was the reason for invading them.
And Lucas, may I respectfully say,
sure.
Leave Married with Children on this. That was a great show.
I'm sorry?
Married with Children, it
All right, let's see here. So Operation Desert Storm dropped 177 million pounds of bombs on Iraq. I'm sure you've all seen the George W. Bush New World Order speech. Still have to play that? Y'all saw it already? Yeah. Okay. All right. So that happened on September 11th, 1991. Let's see here. So in 1993, the Vatican builds the VAT, which is the Advanced Technology Telescope. They spent a lot of money on this. It's in Arizona, and basically, they muscled their way, and that's a whole different conspiracy in itself. If you want to check into that, they built that big old telescope. It cost them over $5 million. This is where it's going to get really weird. The Denver New World Airport. Okay. Built in March 1994, is built behind the highest mountain ranges in the United States. You notice it's called the New World Airport. It's got a time capsule underneath it, and it's got the little Freemasonic compass there. Here's the airport. Here's the biggest mountains in the continental United States. You've got Mount Princeton, Mount Harvard, Mount Yale. All right. There's the big mountain ranges. Now, This is where it really gets weird. When you get to the airport, this is the first thing you see. 32-foot statue of the horse of the apocalypse, whose eyes glow red at night.
It's not 33?
No, it's 32 feet. Okay. Now, the interesting part about this is, believe it or not, this sounds really freaky, but the sculptor who was making this horse, the horse fell on him and killed him. Okay? Before they actually carted it out there, right out of the Denver News, DIA sculpture killed by own sculpture. So that thing fell on him just right before they shipped it out and killed the guy. So here you have the weird sculpture with veins coming out of its genitals and
Really?
Alright, so you got this giant sculpture. Now you notice the airport in the background here. This roof cost them like $1 billion to make this roof. It's a very highly advanced roof made out of Kevlar. What do they need to make a roof out of Kevlar for? Okay, this was designed by NASA, this roof here. Now we're going to get into the murals. Alright. So you go into the airport. Is this the kind of thing you want to see before you get on an airplane? Okay, you got a Russian soldier with an AK-47 stabbing a double piece. You've got an exodus of people, a lady carrying a dead baby, children sick and dying. And these are, now keep in mind, these aren't small. These murals are bigger than this screen right here. These murals take up a whole giant wall. They're huge. You can't miss them. You have a letter here that was written by somebody who died in Auschwitz. I was once a little child in the world, but I am no more a child, for I have known fear. I have learned to hate. How tragic then is youth, which lives with enemies with gallows ropes. Yet I still believe I only sleep today, that I'll wake a child again and start to laugh and play. You have this exodus of people in their little murals there. You also have this scene, which is the other half of this scene. You see how the two rainbows connect right here? You see how this kid is looking back upon this. All the other children in this one are looking upon this guy here, but this one kid is looking back upon this. This is actually a scene right out of the Bible. Okay, it says, "Shall beat their swords into plowshares." That's what he's doing right here. The little German boy is beating the sword. All the nations are handing over their swords in flags. You'll notice that Israel and Palestinian flag, they're in peace handing over their swords to this kid who's beating them into plowshares. It's basically a scene right out of the Bible. You also have this, which is another mural there. So in this mural you have a dead black woman, a dead Indian woman, and a dead Christian Jewish woman. Okay? You have
a Christian Jewish woman.
Well, Judeo-Christian, I should say. You know, she's got the cross, the little Star of David, her locket's broken. You also have the dead Indian and the dead black girl in the casket. You also have this Hispanic girl with the Mayan calendar in her hand. They also change this. For some reason, they come back and they update the city. They've changed it 3 times now. I can't get a picture. Somebody told me about the third change, but they've actually come back and repainted this a couple different times for some reason. All right, this is how big the murals are. See this lady sitting there. They're gigantic things. You also get this, which is very unique.
Wow.
You get this thing in the air, and also this horned creature that's reseeding life. The corn, the dove, and the little baby.
And it's an ark.
Yeah. There's and these are the Colorado mountains in the background.
Wow.
So we've got that going on. Come on. There we go. Alright, you've also got a mural of the Great Deluge. And you've also got this mural, which I haven't exactly determined whether this is water or rock or not, but I do notice that these look like treetops below the water surface as they get smaller and smaller as it goes up. I just included that in there because it's unique looking. But you've got these 2 gargoyles
coming out of the suitcase.
Sitting in the suitcase. Now, what's interesting about these, I don't have a high enough resolution on this, but right here it says Samsonite. You're all familiar with the name Samsonite, right?
Oh.
Well, Samsonite is also an anagram for Mason's site.
Yeah.
Okay?
Oh.
So, you have that.
What was the guy's image of the man in the mural before this?
Let's see here.
I'm sorry, this is the Denver airport?
Yeah, the Denver New World Airport.
That's like something out of Ghostbusters or something. It's insane. I'm serious.
this guy here, he's looking down over this promised land.
Is that a reflection?
Well, it looks like he's looking down with his arms out like it's sanctity. You have mines here. I haven't exactly determined what this means. Like, I don't want to get into my own conjecture.
I think he's been chipped.
Like I said, I'm going to try and stick with facts throughout all this. So I'll leave that up to your own determination on what that means. But this is where it gets interesting. If you look through the Denver airport through the air, this is what you see. That's what you don't see. Okay, it's a swastika from the air.
Yeah.
And also, if you look here, what is this down here? This is the cargo detail, and this is an actual thing from their cargo detail. It's a phallus and testicles. Okay, this is called Pena Boulevard. This is called Union Street, Shady Grove Street. These guys ain't screwing around. This is called Jackson Gap Road. This is called Pena Boneyard. Okay? Wow. This is actual stuff that these guys are putting here. It's right here. And it's, this is from Northwest Airlines, their cargo detail.
Wait.
Oh, go ahead.
They drew that. That's a
That's
photocopy of their.
That's a photocopy.
You didn't elaborate to show that. Wow.
No, that's the actual thing from their deal. I mean, anybody couldn't see that. Knock that two brain cells are together. It's pretty freaking obvious to me.
Loading dock. Yeah.
Loading dock or loading?
I mean, you can't be any more. Alright, so you also have all over the floor, you got these weird things written in ancient Navajo. The Nini means Tallow River. Took me forever to find that. Well, I Googled Earth Tallow River, and I pulled up this spot. This is exactly what brought me to. They have 3 gigantic reservoirs, and all these are crops. All these are just massive crops. Thousands of acres of crops.
Oh, God.
Okay? So they're setting up something up there. Now, other things that I haven't been able to include in this presentation is the fact that they've been working on this airport for 17 years. Okay, it takes them about 2, 3, 4 years to build an airport. 17 years later, they're still working on this thing 2 miles away. They got land section off this property Denver Airport where they're digging tunnels and putting tunnels in the ground.
I heard there's a city under there for all those.
Yeah.
It's if they can read the signs, the Mason signs that they have in the airport.
There's.
Because you're invited, but you have to read it and be able to depict exactly what they say before you're allowed.
Well, I think it's an invitation for Freemasons. That's why it says Mason site. It's a Mason site.
Where are the crops at?
City.
Huh?
Where are the crops at?
The crops are about 45 minutes away from the Denver airport. Just right up the road. The Denver airport's like right over here. So it's not very far away. So they also have this word Beshtik. I don't know if it means anything, but it doesn't. In Navajo, it means white metal. White metal is also known as iridium. Iridium is known as white metal, which is not really found on the planet very much. It's only really found in asteroids. So they spent the initial cost was to be 1.7 billion. They spent 4.8 billion, but it ended up being closer to 6 billion at the end. It's the largest international airport on the U.S. soil. It's twice as big as Dallas. It's built in a high wind area. Stapleton Airport hadn't been. Everybody was very happy with Stapleton Airport, and they have to shut down this Denver New World Airport all the time because of high winds. They've also moved around 110 million cubic yards of dirt, which is about a third of the amount it took now. What do you have to move all that dirt for? To build runways, okay? Fiber optic communication core. They also have a fueling system that can pump 1,000 gallons of fuel per minute. What do you need a fueling system that can pump that much fuel for?
How are you going to have that much fuel available anyway?
Yeah, exactly. So what it looks like to me is that when this event goes down, all the elites are going to go fly into their little fortress here and leave us all behind.
Exactly.
Okay, these are just some facts that I already went over with you, but I kind of highlighted them there. So that was the Denver airport, which is freaky enough in itself. That's pretty much a whole conspiracy all in itself. So Google's launched. I've been very familiar with the internet. I've been on the net since really it first came out. Since Al Gore invented it, I've been on it. Basically, YouTube was a great place to go that you could get your videos out and everybody could see them. Well, Google bought YouTube and that stopped. That they started subversion and keeping people's stuff down, and I pretty much stopped within a couple months of Google buying YouTube.
How long when that happened?
That happened back. Let's see here. It's down here a little further on the exact date, but it's I think it was 2 years ago. Reverend Sung Young Moon, who's a big neocon, friend of the Bushes. Him and his Unification Church bought 300,000 hectares of land down in Paraguay, located behind the Andes Mountains. By 2000, they had acquired 1.48 million acres of land down in Paraguay and ended up giving some of it back to the government of Paraguay. So you got these guys running to the hills. Let's see here. Okay. I'm going to play this for anybody who hasn't seen it, but the day before 9/11, the day before 9/11, the Pentagon lost $2.3 trillion. Donald Rumsfeld goes before everybody and says, we lost $2.3 trillion. What are we going to do? Well, right here is him telling me.
Pentagon, the day before 9/11, Secretary of Defense Donald Rumsfeld declared war, not on foreign terrorists.
The adversary is closer to home. It's the Pentagon bureaucracy.
He said money wasted by the military poses a serious threat.
In fact, it could be said that it's a matter of life and death.
Rumsfeld promised change, but the next day, the world changed. And in the rush to fund the war on terrorism, the war on waste seems to have been forgotten.
My 03 budget calls for more than $48 billion in new defense spending.
More money for the Pentagon when its own auditors admit the military cannot account for 25% of what it already spends.
According to some estimates, we cannot track $2.3 trillion in transactions.
$2.3 trillion, with a dollars for every man, woman, and child in America.
I'm not going to get into the rest of that. You can watch the whole video later. But anyway, they lost 2.3 trillion, which some experts actually believe it's closer to 4.9 trillion that they've lost. They just up and vanished. So you got Donald Rumsfeld admitting that they misplaced that much money the day before 9/11. That's no accident that they decided to announce it the day before 9/11. Why would they announce that, though? Why didn't they just keep it to themselves? That's something you all have to figure out on your own. They announced it for some reason, obviously. Let's see here. Pretty much everybody knows, that 9/11 wasn't exactly what we were told. That's a whole different conspiracy in itself. Right here is the Open Civil Engineers Journal, peer-reviewed accepted paper that showed that there were high nano explosives put in the World Trade Centers. Basically, I personally, this is my own personal belief, I believe that this was just a diversion. 9/11 was a diversion to keep us all busy. Let's see here. It also justifies the invasion of Afghanistan to build a gigantic pipeline. Right here is the... Now what's interesting about this, now check this out, this is from the congressional records. 3 years, 8 months before the invasion of Afghanistan, you've got... the only other possible route is across Afghanistan, which has, of course, its own unique challenges. The country has been involved in a bitter warfare for almost 2 decades and is still divided by civil war. From the outset, we have made it clear, and the construction of the pipeline we have proposed across Afghanistan could not begin until a recognized government is in place and has the confidence of governance lenders in our company. So basically, 3 years before 9/11, they already have a proposed plan for a pipeline across Afghanistan. So... you got that. Where was it? Okay, then the anthrax, which kind of got buried.
Yeah.
That's FBI had previously prevented the scientists involved from speaking publicly. This is right out of the New Scientist. We show that the FBI traced the spores used in the attacks to a single flash to a U.S. government lab, but they don't explain why they made Ivins, who worked at the base, the prime suspect. So the spores were traced back to a U.S. lab.
Didn't he commit suicide?
He did. Let's see here. Okay, then we invade Afghanistan.
Suicided himself.
Yeah, he's suicide.
Okay, so October 1st, 2002, the United States establishes the Northern Command, which is now in control of the entire military. Okay, it's in, you see right here, October 1st, provide command and control of Department of Defense, Homeland Defense efforts to coordinate defense support of civil authorities. Now keep in mind that this was built in Colorado Springs. Okay, so they basically relocated the head of the military to Colorado Springs. Obviously, we're all familiar with the Patriot Act, which was signed into law and probably written well before the fact. Claiming weapons of mass destruction, the United States and UK invade Iraq. We end up building the world's largest military base there. Here's the article on it. let's see here. 9/11/2003, I just put these in here, I don't know the connection, but 9/11/2003, the Swedish foreign minister who had criticized Israel's dealings with Palestine, she ended up getting stabbed to death. On September 11th the next year, Patriarch Peter the Seventh of Alexandria and a bunch of other high-up religious figures, they died in a helicopter wreck that was still unexplained today. Let's see here. So Hurricane Katrina strikes, and basically the National Guard, what did they do during the time? They practiced, here's two videos y'all can watch later. These are pretty long, but this is videos of what is actually going on down there. This top one's Fox News and the bottom.
And tonight, with their babies and their elderly.
Showing how that they went door to door and confiscated people's guns. Like this old lady here, they tackled her and beat her up and stole her gun. Here on Fox News, they show you that here they have all these people locked up in these big camps, and there's food right on the other side, and they won't let anybody get to it. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous when you see this stuff. So they were practicing detaining people more than anything. That was their main practice. There was detention of people. All right, so okay, May 6, 2005, the CIA relocates to Denver. As soon as it wants to open, here they will. Right out of the Washington Post, the CIA is planning to relocate its headquarters and domestic division, which is responsible for operations and recruitment of the United States and the United States from CIA's Langley headquarters to Denver. A lot of the other CIA veterans said such a relocation would make no sense whatsoever, given Denver's relative distance from the major corporate centers. Why would you go so far away, one asked? They will get disconnected from everybody. And it's unclear how a move to Denver would increase the effectiveness of the domestic division's operations. Colorado has become a major intelligence hub since September 11, 2001. The Denver suburb of Aurora is home to a little-known aerospace data facility located inside Buckley Air Force Base. It's also about 70 miles away. You have Northern Command at the Peterson Air Force Base, and could not be learned whether the CIA's Denver plans are linked to the presence of either facility. I guess they didn't decide to look too hard.
Was not the CIA's headquarters previously in the Trade Center somewhere?
No. It was in Virginia. It was what was in the Trade Center was in Building 7 was just an operations place.
Isn't that also where the big database is? That gigantic, incredible.
Yes, you're right. There is a gigantic computer database and data storage center. There's also
genetics and genealogy.
a water treatment and contamination facility that's built underground, the country's biggest. That's in Denver also. So basically, they're preparing for something in Denver. Let's see here. Okay, the EPA starts closing down its library network. People are upset about this because a lot of scientists use the EPA. Here's the article. Use the EPA libraries for a lot of reasons, and they haven't been able to get access to them because they've been closing them down without explanation. June 6, 2006. Now, what's interesting about this, on Wikipedia, when I first did this presentation, the date was 666. Since then, I've gone back and they've changed it to 619 for some reason. I guess they didn't want to be so obvious about it. But they built the Savard Global Seed Bank, which basically is a gigantic, can hold billions of seeds, and it was the Global Crop Diversity Trust, which is Rockefeller. The primary funding came from Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, United Kingdom, Norway, Australia, Switzerland, and Sweden. Let's see here, and also while the popular press has emphasized its possible utility in the event of a major regional or global catastrophe, the bank owns the building. So Rockefeller probably is the owner of the building.
AIG's probably got it insured.
Yeah. When this article was written a year or so ago, there were 20 million seeds, and now they've been rushing for the last 6 months to get as many in there as they possibly can. So there's your global doomsday seed vault. In October 2006, 98,000 acres of land down in Paraguay. It had everybody up in arms down in Paraguay, like, why is this dictator coming to our country? So that's right out of the counterpunch. So here, oh, and another thing I didn't include in here because I couldn't find any references to it, but his father already owns almost 200,000 acres right next to where he just bought land. So between him and Reverend Moon and all these guys, they're building up their little shop down there. So let's see here. George Bush signs H.R. 5122, which is the John Warner Defense Authorization Act. What that did is that bypassed the Posse Comitatus Act, which forbade U.S. military from operating on U.S. soil. Well, it wasn't too long after that everything changed. Here's when November of 2006, when YouTube was bought by Google. November 19th, 2006, Bush meets with, look at this doofus. Okay? Look at it. He's even embarrassed. He's like, God, why am I pictured here with this guy?
Yeah.
So, look at these robes they're wearing. Yeah, okay? Look at that symbol on the robe. What do you see in that symbol? You see that. Why is the president of Russia wearing an eagle over a pyramid? The same with China. The topic for the meeting that day was counterterrorism, measures against infectious disease, and energy security.
I'm sorry, do you mind going back up to that picture one more time?
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Okay, so here you got these guys all wearing the same thing. It looks like they just got some sort of weird meeting or something, maybe sacrificing cats or something. But Bush looks like he just got done eating something. He's got that funny look on his face. You know how Bush is.
He just told a lie.
Yeah.
I like how no one looks excited except for Bush. He's like, oh, yeah.
He's like, yeah, with the big boys now. So there you got these guys. So in 2007, a report card on America's infrastructure was released by the engineers. So in 2001, we had 364 dams that were in high hazard areas needing repair. As of 2007, it's up to 1,743. So they're basically just saying, screw the dams, we don't need them, they're not going to survive anyway. So they're not repairing them. Yeah, so basically they're not doing anything to fix the dams.
So we won't need them anyway when we're all drowned.
That's pretty much what they're
drained.
So let's see here, where was I? Let's see here, okay. So the South Pole Telescope, we built this thing, which is a microwave millimeter telescope built on the South Pole. They really haven't been talking so much about that. You know how much they talk about Hubble and all that? Well, they don't talk about these other telescopes very much because they don't want people to ask what they're for. So, let's see here. Okay, George Bush drafts the NSPD-51 presidential directive, which gives power to him to or the president, to basically impose complete and utter rule over the American people and take over all government functions. So that was done by Bush. Let's see here. All right, now this is really interesting. July 17th of 2007, you notice 777 in there. The Vatican closes down its library that's been open to the public for over 500 years, okay? And they closed down their library, okay? It's got people up in arms because people had to rush around like mad to try and collect all this information before they closed it down. It is not expected to reopen until September of this year. Or expected before, so that they're not even telling you when it's going to reopen. They're just saying it's not going to open before September this year. They had to bring in extra chairs and all that for the people because there was a mass rush of people to get there to try and get as much information as possible before they closed down the Vatican Library. To me, it's amazing they closed down a 500-year library and then just, oh well, big deal. So, let's see here. September 11th, Russia tests the largest conventional weapon called the father of all bombs. That was about as big as a nuke, but it was a conventional weapon. February 28th, Neil Bush meets with the president of Paraguay, Sung Young Moon's son, and Neil Bush.
That's George's brother?
That's George's brother, Neil.
Did he have a connection with the Twin Trade Towers?
Yes, he was involved in SecureCom. Okay, so he was involved with SecureCom. He was also, which is unique, not many people, this is something I remember when I was a kid. Remember when Reagan got shot? Okay. When Reagan got shot and I was a kid, I was watching the news when it happened. And all of a sudden, they were at the hospital, the news and all that, the doors open up, and George Bush comes out. He's got his shirt undone, his tie all undone, his hair's all messed up. And the first reporter sticks a camera in his face and says, "Mr. Bush, what is the truth about your son having lunch with John Hinckley's brother today?" And he goes, "I ain't got time for conspiracy theories. Our president's in there dying," and he pushed the guy off the side, and then nothing was ever said about it again. Okay, well, it is a fact that that guy right there had lunch with the guy's brother who shot Reagan that day that Reagan was shot. Okay, so that's a fact you can look up.
And Hinckley Sr. was a neighbor of Bush Sr.
Yeah, there's a lot of connections there.
Houston.
Let's see here. So, let's see here. The Dutch are preparing for a catastrophe. Fox News tried to run a story about it, but they decided, I guess, maybe they decided they want the public to hear it.
Superstitions. All right, so we should move on to another situation.
Look what happens if she tries to tell you.
Where apparently they are preparing for the apocalypse.
Yeah, they won't have to pray after 2012. It's all going to be over.
I thought we were all concerned about 2000.
Right.
Wasn't that the case?
Millennium, yes. So what exactly is happening in 2012? They're pretty specific about it.
What do they think is going to happen?
The impending end of civilization. So they're buying.
And they blocked the whole thing out.
Are you kidding me?
Wow. Their point of view that they wouldn't be so upset if, in fact, everything came to an end in just 4 years.
So basically, you never got to hear what she told you. So basically, you got Fox with that news story about the Dutch preparing for doomsday. On October 1st, 2008, the Northern Command deployed 6,000 U.S. troops on U.S. soil for the first time since the 1800s. Helping people at home may become a permanent part of active Army.
Helping people.
Yeah, helping people. Okay. This is right out of the Army Times website. Okay. So basically, here's all. Like I said, I highlighted all the important parts in red. So that 6,000 troops on U.S. soil. Then on October 2nd, 2008, Congress is threatened with martial law.
City from Ohio. The only way they can pass this bill is by creating and sustaining a panic atmosphere. That atmosphere is not justified. Many of us were told in private conversations that if we voted against this bill on Monday, that the sky would fall, the market would drop 2,000 or 3,000 points the first day, another couple thousand the second day, and a few members were even told that there would be martial law in America if we voted no. That's what I call fear-mongering.
Yes.
Unjustified. Proven wrong. We've got a week, we've got 2 weeks to write a good bill. The only way to pass a bad bill, keep the panic pressure on. Now, what has the Senate done to this bill?
So that's basically they were threatened with martial law, and then
Sure, we're still alive.
and then the next day the stock market crashes. In fact, between 10.3 and 10.10, that thing drops almost 2,000 points. Basically, because what's happened is they created all this unlimited funds. Since then, they've been trying to pile scam on top of scam on top of scam on top of scam, and it's getting to a point where it can't sustain itself anymore. So basically, you had the market crash, and then on December 2008, Northern Command raises its troop levels from 6,000 to 20,000. Okay, this is right out of the Washington Post. U.S. military expects to have 20,000 uniformed troops inside by 2011. Or other domestic catastrophe, whatever they want to say. But so they raised the troop levels up to 20,000. Let's see here. They launched the Panoramic Telescope and Response System, which is a rapid response system. Its primary mission is to detect near-Earth objects that threaten to cause impact events. So that's something that kind of got under the radar. Now, June of this year, the military has now classified space rocks top secret. Okay. Astronomers used to have all this access to these information, but now you can no longer get access to this information because asteroids and comets are now classified top secret. Okay. So, like I said, this is right out of MSNBC. All the at the bottom. So now that's classified. Let's see. We all heard about ClimateGate. Okay, that's a whole conspiracy in itself. But my own personal belief is that you know, they knew that there were going to be effects on the planet as this object got closer, so they had to come up with something to explain all these weird happenings, and obviously global warming would be the explanation. December of last year, they launched a WISE telescope, which is which is like IRIS, but it's 500 times stronger. So they're looking real hard for something out there. Notice how WISE is also like WISE, like an owl, like Bohemian Grove. It's, okay, so this is interesting. Not many people know there's been a lot of earthquakes under Yellowstone for the last 10, 11 days. Okay, this has been, and the interesting thing about it was that on the 13th, a couple days before all these earthquakes started, they set up all this new earthquake monitoring equipment right before the earthquake started. So maybe they knew that they were going to start.
Maybe they started them.
Here's what I'm interested in. See, this is pretty close here. The 25th. A couple days ago, millionaire Herman Rockefeller vanishes from Australia. He gets off his plane, he gets in his car, he drives out of the airport, and he vanished. He's gone. The cops are saying it's been one of the most baffling cases in their history. It's the most baffling case in 31 years of my career. I can't understand where this person is gone. He just disappeared. Just the day before yesterday, they found his car, and they found absolutely no evidence of foul play. So it looks like he slipped somewhere. He just up and vanished. So there's that. There's Rockefeller starting to turn up missing. Marion Barry makes the 12th House Democrat to retire in the last 24 days. So the Democrats are jumping ship. And then, how many times have you ever heard a president say we're going to withdraw troops at a certain time? You don't do that. You never tell the enemy that you're going to withdraw troops in 2011, because what will happen? They'll just hold out until they leave. So why did Barack Obama tell everybody that they were going to withdraw the troops? Doesn't make no sense. Now this is interesting here because I'm
Not
sure you've all
anything
seen.
makes any sense at all anymore.
You see all the chemtrails? Okay. They're blanketed in the area for some reason. Well, here's a video of what chemtrails are made of. This is right out of the news.
Could a strange substance found by a Southwest Arkansas man be part of a government test? Well, that's the question at the heart of a phenomenon called chemtrails, now getting widespread attention. Well, tonight, Baseline News 12 investigation reporter Jeff Farrell shows us the results of testing we had done about what's in our skies.
It seemed like somewhere it was just crisscrossing the whole sky. It was just like a giant checkerboard.
Bill Nichols snapped several photos of the strange clouds from his home in Stamps, Arkansas. They begin as normal contrails from a jet engine, but do not fade away like a normal contrail. Soon after, he saw particles in the air.
Well, because we'd see it drop to the ground in a haze.
Nichols then noticed the material collecting on the ground.
This is water and stuff that I collected in bowls. I had it set out in my backyard on my dad's pickup truck.
KSLA News 12 had the sample tested at a lab. The results? A high level of barium, 6.8 parts per million, more than 3 times the toxic level set by the EPA.
Armed with these lab results about the high levels of barium found in our sample, we decided to contact the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality. They told us that yes, these levels are very unusual, but at the same time they added the caveat that proving the source is a whole other matter.
Barium is a hallmark of other chemtrail testing, which even attracted attention from a Los Angeles TV station. There's already no shortage of unclassified weather modification programs by the government. But those who fear chemtrails could be secret biological or chemical testing on them.
I'm going to stop it right there because it just gets into kind of disinformation after this. Because what you're going to look for is, if the elites wanted to use chemtrails to hurt us, they could use a whole plethora of different other things. Okay, what is barium mainly used for? Barium is mainly used for radiation shielding. Okay, it's one of its main properties. That's why you take a barium drink when they x-ray your stomach, because it absorbs the x-rays and then they can photograph it. Okay, that's what barium is used for, to shield radiation. Barium borate flash glasses better shields light radiation. Barium absorbs x-rays. It's a getter, a material that combines and removes trace gases from vacuum tubes. And here is It's a good absorber of X-rays. It's used to purify chemicals. It uses a water softener. Easily absorbs moisture. So basically, it's a radiation absorber.
So there's no negative effects upon the
Well, I'm sure it does have.
brain and lungs?
I'm sure it does have negative effects on your immune system. Anything in high doses will.
Last Thursday, I saw tons of them in the sky.
Oh yeah, they're everywhere. This year, I'm not really going to go too much in depth on this because I've only got an hour left here. But here's all the underground facilities that are known. This is no top secret stuff. This is no secret. This is all known underground facilities throughout the world. All right, media trends. I'm just going to quickly brush over this. If y'all notice from '93 on up, they've been hitting us with one big story after another, whether it's Waco, O.J. Simpson, Y2K bug. It's just been one big story after another. One to cover up the next one to cover up. It's called a media blitz. Just keep everybody's mind occupied with all this crap. Also, they've been pumping all these Survivors, Survivor Man, Man vs. Wild, The Colony, Apocalypse Man. They've got all these new shows out about this stuff.
The History Channel is pretty much nothing.
Yeah, it's pretty much the Armageddon channel now. So anyway, this is what the news is not putting together for you. All these objects here, okay, I'm not going to go to every one of them, but let's go to this one for instance. This is an object that fell out of the sky in South Africa. Now these things are only supposed to hit the planet this size once every year, maybe once every couple years. Look at this object. These things have been happening all over the place. And in fact, sometimes during the month of November last year, okay, these things were happening 2 times a day. Me and my roommate actually saw the flash. This one here, let's see, let's get back to that. This one here actually creates huge fireballs seen in 8 states. That night I was sitting there at my computer, and all of a sudden I saw this flash. I was like, oh my god, I didn't think it was supposed to rain. So I looked at the radar, and it was absolutely clear, and I was like, what the hell is that? Well, come to find out, it was the night that this happened. This giant asteroid came in, and basically was that big. Look at the flag, watch the flag. It caused a shockwave. You saw the flag move because of the pressure. Okay, so there's all these objects hitting the planet left and right. A lot more than what the media is telling you. You can find all these articles, everyone has a link on. But if you just search, if you just meticulously search, you can find that like November 26th and 27th, large fireballs reported over Edmonton 2 nights in a row. These are fireballs, big ones that are coming in, breaking windows and stuff like here with the sonic booms. You've got pressure waves, shakes up UK. Where's one here? There was one where, large unexplained blast shatters windows in West Virginia. So there's all these unexplained. Now we've all before, but these are sonic booms that are getting the public to call the police, thousands of people, and say, "I just heard a loud explosion." Most people know what a sonic boom sounds like, and most people know what a sonic boom doesn't sound like. That's why they're all calling the police so much. Most people don't know that there was a 7.2 earthquake and tsunami in the Solomon Islands a couple weeks ago either. The news did a good job at not reporting this either. Basically, there was a 7.2 magnitude earthquake and a tsunami that wiped out all the villages there. And the news really didn't do a good job of telling the people of that. Also, most people don't know that there was a tsunami and the Haiti earthquake too. Right here is the on their website. I couldn't get the video to put on here, but this is right from CNN International. There was a tsunami that hit after the earthquake, and they're not talking about that either for some reason. All right, so through 2007 and 2009, we've got a whole bunch of unexplained rogue waves. Rogue wave drowns woman, rogue wave carries fishermen out to sea, ferry rammed by high tide in Indonesia. So you've got all these unexplained tides and things going on, and also large-scale blackouts. Now here's where we're going to get into the interesting part. All right, the sun. I made this video here. This video is over 200,000 images of Soho that I compiled. This is the year 2003 and the year 2009. You're watching 2003. Okay, that was the neat comet that went by that you just saw right there. Okay, you see how the sun's bursting out the coronal mass ejections everywhere. This is what the sun should normally look like. And as soon as we get to the 2009, you'll see the dramatic changes in the sun. That holds that little thing in the center right there to block out the actual sun. The sun is the circle, the white circle in the center. That's actually the size of the sun. Okay, so we're coming up upon 2000, we're in November, or October, November, and then December, and then watch what happens when we go to 2009. Look at that. All the sun can do now is blow. It's completely different. It's acting unbelievably different than it did before. You're not getting any coronal mass ejections out of the north or south of the sun. Sides like that, and little smoke rings.
Wow, what's the? You're going into the explanation. It's like there's some kind of pull.
Like I said, I can't get into my own personal opinion about things, but what I can do is just show you what I found, and you guys have to put it together on your own. You know, it's there's a lot of information here. So basically, the sun has dramatically changed in the course of a couple of years. The reason why I started at 2003 is because that's when the NEAT comet went by. The NEAT comet was covered up by NASA very well. They did a good job, and I'll show you how they did that. This was the sun back in 2002. This is the sun today. There's the difference. Okay? Now look at this. This is from NASA itself. The radiance of the sun. Look in 2003 when that comet went by. It dropped all the way down to the bottom of the scale. Same thing with the sunspots, or the magnetic field. 2003, it drops down tremendously. And also 2003, the sunspots drop right there, right when that so-called NEAT comet. Right here, NASA tells you, it turns out that none of our models were totally correct. The sun is behaving in an unexpected way and very interesting. Let's see here, set a space-age record for sunspot. In our professional careers, we've never seen anything quite like it. Solar minimum has lasted far beyond the date we predicted in 2007. So, all their predictions for what the sun's supposed to be doing are way off. The North Pole movement suddenly jumped. It was going along fine, and then all of a sudden it just started taking off. Here's the article about how Canada's losing their North Pole. And also the South Pole has slowed down. The South Pole is moving along at a good clip, and now it's slowed down tremendously. So you've got the two different poles doing different things. This is interesting here. This is right on National Geographic. Earth's core magnetic field changing fast. What is so surprising is the rapid, almost sudden changes take place in Earth's magnetic field. The findings suggest similarly quick changes simultaneously occurring in the liquid metal core 1,900 miles below the surface. So you've got rapid changes in the Earth's core. Let's see here. The Chandler wobble is basically the wobble of the Earth. They don't really know what causes it, but there was this anomaly in 2006 that they haven't been able to explain. It took me forever to verify that this was a real graph from the Observatoire de Paris. Actually, real graph. They're the ones that monitor pole movement, and there was a major anomaly that's unexplained in there. The cosmic arrays in 2009 increased 19%. That's right from NASA's their graph. They were expecting the cosmic rays to be here, but yet they're up here. Okay, so because of the magnetic field is going down so high, 2009 cosmic ray intensity has increased 19% beyond anything we've seen in the past 50 years. We're experiencing the deepest solar minimum in nearly a century. So something's going on with the sun. Natural disasters up 400%, which Oxfam is blaming on global warming, which I call bullcrap. And also, it's no freak air farm was a normal pattern. The number of people affected by extreme natural disasters has surged by almost 70%, with flooding up sixfold. Okay, and then they try and tell you the number of geothermal events like earthquakes and volcanoes has barely changed. No, that's wrong. They have changed. I'm not going to really include earthquake data in here because of the fact that there's been a lot of the USGS and what information they're putting out. I've seen a lot of different things happen, so I don't want to. That's why I'm not including temperature data, because if we all know by climate data, we don't know what the real temperature is. We've been told different stories by different groups of people, so we can't tell what the truth is. So I'm not going to include that in here.
New Madrid in the Mississippi. What about the New Madrid stuff?
The fault line? What about it? Well, that what I'm doing is I'm putting the things that I can prove. You know, that's what I'm doing. I'm putting all the things in here that are fact. You know, I know the New Madrid fault line is there, but I mean, they had the Haitian earthquake just recently. I can't really get into my conjecture about the earthquake stuff because, like I said, I've seen so many anomalies with the geological survey that I can't tell what the truth is, so I can't put it in here. You know, I mean, I can only go by what I know. Bees are disappearing. I'm sure we've all heard of colony collapse disorder. Okay, well, the bees are disappearing. Populations have been disappearing at alarming rates. Okay, and scientists don't know why. Well, let's look at how bees navigate. Okay, when a honeybee finds a food source, she uses the tools in her solar compass, which lets her remember, even if it's a cloudy day out, where the food is, where the hive is, and how to get back to the hive. Well, what my own personal belief is that the bees are going out and they can't find their way back. And bees have very high metabolism. If they don't get honey fairly fast, they'll starve to death. So they go out, they can't find the hive, and they end up starving to death. So the colony collapse disorder is a big deal because a lot of our fruits and vegetables are pollinated. Down in the Gulf, there's all these whale shark sightings that are baffling scientists because they're not normally in the Gulf of Mexico. Also, this weird freak sandstorm hit Sydney. Ever seen anything like that?
No.
Okay. This is right on ABC News.
September 21st.
Alright. Now, this is where the so-called Neat Comet. Okay. This was the comet that went by the sun in 2003 right here. Okay, look how big it is. I'm going to pause it here. You see, that's the size of the sun right there. Look at the size of that. Okay, that thing went by the sun, and NASA said, oh, don't worry about it, don't worry about it. Everything's cool, everything's fine, don't worry about it. All right, so that giant comet went by the sun. The BBC reported that it seemed to be struck by super outbursts of gas from the star. They also said that its calculations show it passed through the inner solar system once before 3,700 years ago. The comet is unusual and it's very large and very bright. In fact, it's the brightest comet ever observed by one of SOHO's instruments. And what did they do? So I had questions about this comet. Okay, as soon as this loads here. I had questions about this comet because there were all kind of anomalies with this, like this image here has this thing in it for some reason, which is out of this picture. This image here is actually a chunk of this image, and for some reason they're superimposed on each other. This image came out the next day. Just one image, and that's all that they showed. And then this image came out the very next day, which has this big round ball and a coronal mass ejection around it. So I superimposed all three images over each other, and you get a straight line right between the three. Alright, now, you go to the next... So, I'm an inquisitive guy. I sign up for astronomy.com to start asking questions, from professional astronomers. I posted a thread. What do you guys make out of the Neat Comet? It wasn't 10 minutes later, they deleted my thread. Okay? So I inquired. I said, why did you delete my thread? This is what I got in return. You have received a new private message from Astronomy Forums from the moderator. Basically, he tells me, you asked why your posting was removed. Unfortunately, some religious groups are using the Neat Comet to make claims of mass ejections from the sun and alleged NASA cover-ups to support their interpretation of the Bible regarding the end times. As it says in the Bible, there is a time and place for everything. The Astronomy Forum is not the time or place for religious-based discussions. Whether or not you made your posting with any religious motive, or of course, is of course unknown to me. However, the reality is that your topic has been hijacked by some religious groups. Unfortunately, this happens from time to time. What? So basically, you're not allowed to talk about a comet on Astronomy Forum. Okay, because it's been hijacked by a religious group. Okay, that was the reason why my comment was removed. So that really freaked me out. So I go to Google and I type in the actual name of the comet was C2001 V-1. Right? For the web, you'll pull up 2,110 pages for it. If you go to news, did not match any documents. Okay, so you can't even find the comet in the news. Not one single story about the Neat Comet in the news. Neat Comet, type it in there, did not match any documents. But yet you type it in for the regular Google, you get 45,000. Okay, look at this. Space.com top one, alleged NASA cover-up of menacing Neat Comet. Do NASA fake comet flyby. These are all the stories on it. So basically they did a really good job because most of you didn't ever hear of the Neat Comet, did you? Yeah, they did a real good job of covering that up. So there you have your meat counting. Let's see here. I'm going to skip this protostars. Remember I told you to remember Orion, okay? Well, so I go on to Google. Google has a program called Google Earth, where you can look at the Earth or you can look at space. So I go to space, and I start looking, and I find this. Okay, I found this big black spot. Nothing in it.
Grub.
Well, guess what it is? It's right here next to the in the western hemisphere of the constellation Orion. They don't want you seeing, like it says here, sky near the western edge of the constellation Orion, right in the Washington Post. For some reason, Google decided they wanted to block out that image. They didn't want people seeing something there. So, there's that. The moon. We all know the moon is this bright little cheery character, this guy. But you look at the backside of the moon, and that's what it looks like. And you have to ask yourself why all these craters are on the South Pole. You know, why are there so many craters on the South Pole of the moon? That would tell you that something comes up from the south and is dragging a bunch of debris with it that slams into the moon. Now, that's my own personal conjecture, but common sense would tell you that. Glaciation, deglaciation. You have the ice ages and the warming periods. Okay. Sea level. Back during the ice age, the ocean levels were almost 500 feet lower than what they are now. Historically, people live near the ocean. That's where the fish are, that's where the food is. People build their establishments along the coast of the world. We do it now, we've done it for thousands of years. So, this is what it looked like back during the ice age. You had the glaciers coming down, you had a massive lake here. And actually, this map is not correct because it doesn't show the actual land mass and how big it is. You can see in this picture where the land used to be back during the ice age. Here's the shelf. Okay, this is the shelf of where the water level was back during the ice age. So that's about 400 feet right there. All right, and here's what happens when it glaciates. The glaciers come down and basically cover the upper half of North America and part of Asia. So, this is what's going to lead into the next part, which is really the most interesting part of this whole thing. They found in recent years that the several craters around the same time and of the one that killed the dinosaurs have been discovered all between the latitudes of 20 and 70 north. This led to the hypothesis that that crater was not the only impact event that happened at the same time. So, this is where it gets really fascinating, because this is where you have to throw out everything you know about archaeology and come to the understanding that there's a good chance that we were civilized on this planet a long, long time ago. Ancient artifacts that are going to shatter your thinking of what we know about the past. This is called the Antikythera mechanism. Okay, this thing it's dated to 2,000 years old. Hold on now, as soon as this thing decides it wants to. There we go. All right, 2,000 years old. It's got 30 gears, tooth wheels. Okay, able to rotate different speed each. Dials, basically. It's a very sophisticated time-keeping piece, and it was invented 1,000 years before gears were invented. Okay, so how did they have this 1,000 years before the gear was invented? Another question is, how did we lose the knowledge that the Earth goes around the sun? Or how did we lose the knowledge that the Earth was round? And all of a sudden we thought it was flat, and then we go back to round again. So somewhere along the line we lost all that knowledge. They found these batteries in Iraq called the Babylon batteries. These things are 2,000 years old. What would they need a battery for 2,000 years ago if they didn't have equipment to run a battery off of? I mean, you got to have you don't just create a battery just to have it sitting around and look at it. There's a reason for cell phone. Mysterious China stone. Nobody knows what this is. It's an ancient stone with a bolt embedded in it. Okay, it's got screw lines. It's one of China's most precious objects that they hold in their museum. What it is, though. Ancient glider from Egypt. Okay, this thing is thousands of years old, and yet it is aerodynamically perfect. They built a scale model of this remote control plane, and it flew perfectly and landed perfectly. So how did they know how to build a plane 2,000 years ago if planes didn't exist? All right, now this is off the side of an Egyptian pyramid. Okay. this, you have to trust me, this is an actual image. To get it that clear, I had to cut down from the big room image to show you. But that sure as hell looks like a helicopter to me. And these things look like things that we don't even have today. Okay, don't even know what these things are. But these are on the, this is definitely a thing. It's called the Abydos helicopter, and it's on the side of a pyramid. These things were found down in, I believe, Peru, or Brazil. I think it's Peru. They built scale models of every one of these, and every single one of them flew perfectly. Okay, these are made out of gold. This crystal skull found down in a Mayan city, when put under a microscope, could not find any evidence of tool marks. Okay, how can you build something that precise? This thing, its bottom jaw comes off, it's exactly perfect of a human skull, and they cannot find any tool marks on it. So where did it come from? Okay, this thing. Nobody knows exactly what this is, but basically it's got a copper center, a ceramic. This is ceramic, and this is let's see here, causing a 3/4 inch wide cylinder made of solid white porcelain or ceramic, and the center of the cylinder is 2 millimeter shiny shaft metal core about 0.8 of an inch. And this was found in a wooden box, basically, when they were mining for gold in the 1800s. These things were found by Russian gold miners, little spiral micro objects. You put them under a microscope, and you can tell this is done by a high, sophisticated, advanced. And these things are nobody knows how old they are, but they're not from today's world. They're from some other time in the past. And some of these are made of tungsten, which has a melting point of 6,100 degrees. We didn't have that technology for a long time to melt that. These also, bronze wheels, were found out in Peru. Gears, basically. Of dinosaurs, okay, thousands of years old. How did they know what a dinosaur looked like? Okay, thousands of years ago. The 5 plutonic solids. Okay, these are the basic 5 solids of geometry. These things are also thousands of years old. This ivory tusk carving, 22,000-year-old ivory tusk carving. Okay, dinosaur on the side of temple in Angkor Wat, I believe this is. Or no, this is Ta Prohm Temple, deep in the jungles of Cambodia. How did they know what a stegosaurus looked like? This is the most amazing thing to me of all. The London artifact. You see this is embedded in rock. This is 10 million year old rock that it's embedded in. This hammer is so old that the wood has started to turn to coal. When they x-rayed the head of this hammer, they found no air bubbles in it. Okay, air bubbles are a sign of a lower steel process. The more manufacturing sophistication you get, the more air bubbles you get out of it, the stronger the metal becomes. They couldn't find air bubbles in this piece of metal, this hammer that looks like something you buy from Walmart. And it's embedded in 10 million year old rock. So these ancient pipes in sticking up out of the ground. Okay, nobody knows what this is. They found all these gigantic ancient pipes sticking up out of the ground. This was just recent, actually. This was just over the last couple of years. The Chinese have sent out all these specialists out to the area to map the whole area and to try and index and find out what these things are. So they found all these giant pipes. Here's another dinosaur relic. Nobody knows how old it is. This is an interesting thing right here. This is called the Pure Reefs map. This right here is Antarctica with no ice on it. Okay, how did they know what Antarctica looks like with no ice? It's been millions of years since there hasn't been ice on Antarctica. So either they had ground-penetrating radar, or else this map was handed down, or this is on a gazelle skin from a long time ago, when somebody knew what Antarctica looked like without ice on it.
How did they know about South America?
Because this matches, I mean, if you, like I said, I can only breeze over this stuff because we're limited on time, but if you go and research this stuff, you'll find that this is an actual, this is the coastline of Antarctica right here. It fits perfectly. This right here, they want to tell you that this is a natural event, okay? Is that natural? That looks like a structure that is designed to take an extreme amount of pressure or weight. It's occurrence, and then they also try and tell you that this is natural too. That's called the Baglands Guardian. That's up in Canada. They say that this is a natural event, but and they built a mine right in his ear hole. And this is the road going into the mine.
Oh.
So they tell you that this is a natural event, but I can't see that that's natural. That's just been... So anyway, that's the ancient artifacts, which is pretty mind-boggling in itself.
Was there anything ever said about Stonehenge?
No, I didn't really get into that because it's just not somewhere I had time to research, you know. Basically, I put this together because when I found out about this stuff a few months ago, I said, man, I want all my friends to get out of here, so I got to have a reason. I put all this stuff in one place to be able to show them so that I don't look like an idiot or some kind of freak, you know. So basically, I put all this stuff in one place. They've recently been finding, now remember I told you that the sea levels were almost 500 feet lower. Well, they're now starting to find these cities. This is off the coast of Japan. The last time that this place was above water was 8 to 12,000 years ago. And yet they have these big advanced creations. Now if you go down here, you'll notice that Cleopatra's palace also found underwater. Okay? And also, they just recently found 2 huge 10-mile square, I can only include one in here because I made this back before they found a second one, but they found 2 huge cities, 10-mile square, right next to each other off the coast under the ocean near India. So, here they got these cities that they found underneath the water. And so there's that. Ancient star matches, the Great Pyramids. 10,500 years ago, they matched up with the constellation of Orion perfectly. Exactly 10,500 years ago, the Sphinx looked to the east rising sun on the spring equinox. 10,500 years ago, in Angkor Wat, these 2 pillars here would line up to the spring and winter solstices. This is Angkor Wat also. You see their fascination with serpents, the giant serpent. Okay, you see how they're holding the serpent. Also, you see here in this one, they're holding the serpent, but you can see it's broken free. And what are they doing? They're standing on a turtle. They're telling you to run and hide. That's a symbol of hiding. Angkor Wat also lined up with the constellation Draco 10,500 years ago. Tiwanaku, one of the most amazing cities ever. These things are built so... This has been around for so long, and yet look at this, no mortar whatsoever. This structure has stood without any mortar. These things right here, or not those, but this one and another one over here, lined up to this winter and summer or spring equinox. Here they are, lined up to the equinoxes 10,500 years ago. Excuse me. So what's interesting is if you map all these things out across the globe, you'll find that most of these artifacts that lined up to the sun and the moon or the equinoxes form a perfect circle. Okay, here's Easter Island right here. Okay, so basically somebody ages ago was trying to tell us something by making a big giant circle around the world. So there's all the ancient star matches. Let's see here. We've already kind of gone over the petricles. Now, in this thing, there's also a couple documentaries, like this thing called The Great Year. This is, I think it's an hour-long documentary you can watch. The great city of Atlantis. Okay, Plato, Atlantis was a naval power lying in front of the Pillars of Hercules that conquered many parts of Western Europe and Africa 9,000 years before the time of Solomon, and approximately 9600 BC. After a failed attempt to invade Athens, Atlantis sank into the ocean in a single day of night misfortune. Well, what is America doing right now? We're trying to take over the world's resources right before the event happens because we want to have our hands on all the world's resources. Most likely, the same thing was happening during Atlantis at the time. That's why they were at war with half the world, because they were trying to steal all the world's natural resources. So you got Atlantis. Let's see here. All right. Now, there's some old writings that are similar to the Bible, but they're not the Bible. This is it's called the Colburn Bible. And these are ancient writings from Egypt. It is in fact known to the wise that the earth was ever... It's called the Colburn Bible. And these are ancient writings from Egypt. It is in fact known to the wise that the earth was utterly destroyed once and reborn on the second wheel of creation. A lot of people don't know that Egypt had a 360-day calendar. And then all of a sudden something happened, a great catastrophe, and all of a sudden the days went to 365. So the Egyptians had to change their whole calendar system, and what they did is they still went by their normal 360 days, but they designated those 5 days as days of the dead, where they mourned their dead friends and family. Okay, and 4 times have the stars moved to new positions, and twice the sun has changed its direction as its journey. Twice the destroyer has struck Earth. God caused a dragon from out of heaven to come and encompass her about. The seas were loosened from their cradles and rose up pouring across the land. Let's see, let's go down here. Let's go down here. Men should know that the earth would be afflicted. The sign was a strange star. The star grew and waxed in great brightness and was awesome to behold. It put forth horns and sang, being like any other ever seen. When ages pass, certain laws operate upon the stars in the heavens. Their ways change and their movement and restlessness, so they are no longer constant, and the great light appears readily in the skies. They will hear the trumpet and the battle cry of the destroyer. They will be eaten up by the flames of wrath and consumed by the breath of the destroyer. Let's see here. Okay, this is the interesting one. It twisted about itself like a coil. Okay, it was not a great comet or a lucent star, being more like a fiery body of flame. Yes. What did we just see with the Norway spiral? A giant coil with a fiery body of flame.
Can you go back up a little bit?
Sure.
It talked about they will seek refuge inside the earth.
Oh.
They're building these big cities in
the
United States.
Yeah, let's see here.
That's really interesting.
Right at the top.
At the top?
No, well, where you, the top of where you
where you were.
Down there, yeah.
That's 3.6.
Keep going down.
I like the part where it says women will be as men and men will be as women.
Well, that's pretty.
We'll see. Yeah. So these are ancient writings from the Colburn Bible.
How do you spell that?
Kolbrin. The days of the years were shortened, and the times of all things altered. The seasons were turned around. Okay, so there's some ancient Egyptian writings about that that are pretty clear. Now, Easter Island. What they try and tell you is that a group of people decided to take a boat, it's actually almost 3,000 miles out into the middle of nowhere, build a bunch of monuments, and then say, oh, well, we're done. I mean, come on now. Look at these guys. They're all looking up to the sky. Why are they looking up to the sky?
Sun God.
Okay? They're all looking up to the sky because that's why they picked Easter Island, because it was in that little circle that they put around the world to try and show us that they had advanced technology back then. Let's see here.
Sorry, one second, real quick. What if that circle is just because of an observation point? Like they would have the same observation point of the celestial like constellations and stuff.
Right. That's what I'm saying. I'm just putting down facts. I mean, if you want to, you want to figure it out, and however you want to.
We want the freaky truth.
I just stick with the facts because if I don't, then people say that's your conjecture. So I just stick with what I know is the truth. This is really interesting stuff. Here, we'll play this little thing there.
On August 19, 1977, the American space probe Voyager 2 leaves Cape Canaveral on a several-year journey to the vicinity of the solar system's most distant planets. The Voyager's discoveries challenge many of astronomy's recent conclusions, while fully corroborating ancient knowledge. For the first time, we see images of Uranus. Astonishing. It is exactly as the Sumerians report in their 6,000-year-old description. Though they had no telescopes that we know of, the Sumerians characterize Uranus as Mash Seek, translated bright greenish. They also explain the unique planetary tilt of Uranus. According to the Sumerians, our solar system was invaded by a planetary body that caused collisions and disrupted the existing order. NASA scientists concur that a collision with a body the size of Earth, traveling at 40,000 miles per hour, could have caused both the orbital skew of Uranus and the devastation apparent from the planet's surface scarring. Its neighbor Neptune was described as a blue-green planet by the Sumerians millennia ago, but science has only confirmed this fact during the past few decades. The Sumerians named and listed all of the planets in our solar system. Their documented list of these planets is tangible evidence that in at least one respect, modern man is on a path of rediscovery.
That ancient knowledge included the planets Uranus and Neptune, supposedly unknown until discovered in 1781 and 1846, and even Pluto, not discovered until 1930.
Neptune, Nudimoon, the artful creator. Uranus, Anu, he of the heavens.
All right, you can watch the rest of this later. I'm running kind of short on time, so I'm going to kind of whip through this. But basically, you can see that the Sumerians knew that Uranus was green. How did they know that? I mean, they had to have some kind of knowledge somehow to know that. There's another video on here about the planets. Let's see here. The Mayans on the winter solstice, winter equinox, I believe. This serpent forms right here and slithers down into the ground. Basically, it only happens one day a year on December 21st, and so that happens, which is pretty amazing in itself.
That goes down in the shadow, you say?
Yeah, basically this is the serpent. Here's its head right here.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Okay, see, what I personally believe is that serpents they used, back then they didn't have cell phones and they didn't have things to describe what's going on in today's world, so basically they had to use animals and things. So they called things serpents. When they saw a comet, they called it a serpent because that's the only way they had to describe it. So also here they show, down here the Mayans show the serpent pouring out these gigantic buckets of water on it, puking water on the planet, and pouring out gigantic buckets of water, like the serpent causes the flood, which I want to get into, which is really amazing, is all the ancient flood myths. Okay, quickly, Satan mythology. You got it loading. All right, Satan, devil, horns. Okay, has a tail, cast out of heaven on earth. Now, when you see a comet, you see the side view of it. You see the head and the tail. But have you ever seen the comet coming straight on, or a planet coming straight on? It's going to have horn, like remember the video of the asteroid coming in I showed you? It had two horns coming off the side and a tail. So I suspect personally that that's where the mythology from Satan and devils and demons and all that comes from, is from things hitting the planet, and also dragon mythology. Here you got dragons. They're fire-breathing. They live in holes under the ground. They got horns. What is that? That's fire-breathing. So all of a sudden the guys are there, and all of a sudden they see this thing that's breathing fire go across the sky. They hear a loud bang. They go out there, and what do they see? They see a big hole in the ground. So they think that the things live in holes in the ground.
Going home.
So a lot of this stuff comes from ancient mythology that they just didn't know how to explain. What I was going to get into, which is really interesting, is the flood mythology. Okay. Throughout let's see here. In China, floodwaters that reached to the heavens. Okay, reached to the heavens. That means they were up into the sky. Severe flooding along the river bank was caused by dragons. Okay, that's key right there. Another one. The earth rests on a giant snake. One day the snake got tired of the burden and shook the earth off into the sea. Let's see here. Australia, when the eel finally succeeded in flooding the earth, once again an eel, a snake-like creature, only the highest mountain peaks were visible, like islands in the sea. There are over 600 flood myths throughout the world. In Polynesian, they released floods from the heavens. Let's see here, go down. Plato talks about the flood that occurred 10,000 years before his time. Let's see here. He also talks about many great deluges that had taken place in the 9,000 years. Let's see here. Delusion. All other men perish except for the few who escape the high mountains. Okay. Dardanus is the land was flooded, and the mountain on which, he and his family survived formed an island. And let's see here. So that all other men were destroyed except those who fled to the high mountains. That's why the elites are fleeing to Denver. Germanic. There are two separate delusions. Basically, the second one talks about Where was it? The great world serpent that lies beneath. So everything goes back to serpent. Okay, they all go back to the serpent thing. Let's see here. The very high mountains were swallowed up in a flood, and the waters remained lying tranquil during the 52 springs. 4 monsters grew in size and power until they touched the sky. Waters rose and covered everything but the top of the reed and the heads of the monsters. So these are all the different flood mythologies. Oh yeah, here's a battle between 2 mythical serpents provoked a great flood.
Did you write all this?
No, this is all copied from various archaeological websites and stuff.
Go back. Could you go back up to that about two to the Menominee, right there?
Okay.
Those are Indians. I think there's a town called Menominee, Michigan. Here's an Indian tribe over here.
Well, what I'll do is, like I said, y'all can have a copy of this, and y'all can go through it on your own. I'm down to what time is it here?
Okay.
I've got 20 minutes left, and I've still got a bunch of stuff to go over. There's a lot of stuff on here. Believe me, it's going to take you a couple weeks to go through all this. So you got all the flood myths. Now, I'm not going to get really into prophecy because of the fact that it's not fact, and I can't prove it. It's prophecy. But what I can tell you is that, imagine this. Imagine if you knew of a 3,600-year cycle. Any one of you could be a prophet, because you could say in 3,600 years from now, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. And to the ancient, to the futuristic people, you look like a prophet, because you predicted things that happen. But if you know of a cycle, like say, most people don't understand that Nostradamus had a vast library of books that are not available today. Okay, so maybe he knew. Okay, and he was able to make these predictions based upon his knowledge of a cycle, a 3,600-year cycle. A lot of people don't know that George Washington had a prophetic vision that's recorded in the Library of Congress about the oceans rising up and coming over America. Let's see here. Now, Mother Shipton, this was interesting because nobody knows who wrote this, but regardless of who wrote it, it was published in 1641. Okay. It doesn't matter who wrote it. The fact is, it was published in 1641. Okay. Let's see here. Let me get to the part of. Let's see here. For in those wonder far off days, the women shall adopt a craze to dress like men in trousers wearing, cut off all their locks or hair, and roaring monsters with men atop, does seem to eat the verdant crop, and men shall fly as birds me down, and give away the horse and plow. And love shall die and marriage cease, and nations wane and babes decrease, and wives shall fondle dogs and cats, and men live much like dogs. Cats and dogs are much like dogs. When pictures seem alive and movements free, when boats swim like fishes beneath the sea, when men like birds scour the sky, then half the world deep drenched in blood shall die. And as he blows his wondrous horn, now we go back to what the Egyptians said about how it would make a sound, how it would be like a star that nobody ever heard before, the trumpet of the battle cry of the destroyer. Old worlds die and new reborn. A fiery dragon will cross the sky 6 times before this earth will die. For 7 days and 7 nights, man will watch with awesome sight. The tides will rise beyond their ken to bite away the shores, and then the mountains will begin to roar, and earthquakes split the plain to shore. And flooding waters rushing in will flood the lands with such a din that mankind cowers in muddy fen and snarls about his fellow man. And then the dragon's tail is gone, man forgets and smiles and carries on. And then they will send a dragon back to light the sky, his tail will crack. And man shall flee, king, lord, and serve. Basically, it's a really interesting prophecy that was written 400 some odd years ago, and it seems like it's right on with today's world. I mean, whoever this Mother Shipton was dead on with whatever she was saying. So
she was a mothership.
Yeah, Mother Shipton. Yeah, there you go. So yeah, I never even thought about that.
No, I was saying not every soul is actually.
Oh, no, sorry. So basically, you have something that was written 400 and some odd years ago that basically describes what's going on the earth today. Now,
what year are we in the cycle?
I'm sorry?
What year are we in the cycle?
3,200.
It's a 3,600-year cycle, and basically, if you go back to the
we have 2 years.
well, I personally don't believe that 2012 was. If you want my own conjecture out of this, that's one thing I want to say is I don't have the time. I don't even think the elites have a time. Okay, I think they're just as scared as everyone else. I personally believe it's this year, at the end of this year.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I personally believe that it's going to happen at the end of this year.
Why?
Well, for one, on here is a video by John Moore. Okay, he was a CIA intelligence. He's a whistleblower. He's come clean on this. After I found out all about this, I said, God, there's got to be some other guy, some other person out there that knows about this. So I started looking. I found this guy, John Moore. Well, anyway, he talks about the elites making sure they had their plans done by the end of 2009. They had to have all their plans done by December 2009. So I would suspect.
Ooh.
Oh, go ahead, say what you're going to
You know, are you familiar with the CAPR? Oh God, I say it all the time. The annual financial reports.
A little bit.
But no, I'm talking about all the couched money, the stolen money to finish it, and you know all these trillions they can't get, and like they're raking us over the coals with these stimulus packages. They put every bogus name in the book on them, and it's unaccounted for money, and it sums beyond belief.
And we can't
just
tell
right
anybody
now.
where it is.
Yeah.
It's a secret.
Yeah. So there's a lot to hide.
It's their cities they're building for themselves.
That's what I said.
All right, on here what I've done is I've included.
Looks like they're in a hurry to finish it.
Here's all the video clips. Here's documentaries. Okay, the truth about global warming. John Moore. You must see that. That's really important. It's a great year. That's a great. Quest for Lost Civilization. Now this is like a 2-hour documentary. This is an hour. This is an hour. So there's a lot of interesting information on here. Science to look for: increased tidal activity, increased asteroid fireball sonic boom activity, increased cover-up in scandals, deeper disconnects of the people and governments. You're going to get possibly the completion. The Georgia Guidelines were never complete. They never finished their time capsule, and they never put an end date on there. So if you see these guys complete that, that's a good sign. One of the things that I found, since they're running to the Denver airport, okay, anybody can go on the internet and they can get any police scanner in the country over the internet. Okay, if you just go to Google and type in Denver scanner, you will pull up the scanner for the Denver airport. Oh, cool. Now, if you listen to that scanner and you become familiar with it, you'll be able to tell when that activity picks up. You know it's probably go time. Okay. When you see the police activity pick up in that area, you know that they're, because that's where the elites are going. I mean, it's obvious that they're running to the hills.
Did you see Jets Ventura?
Yeah.
The last one?
Yeah, I saw it. They're pushing that 2012 thing on that
So you think that?
I think that's
well, that's still warning in itself. You know,
yeah, that's a good point.
It's a diversion because they know that people don't prepare for things until like right before the fact.
And they'll be gone and out here.
So exactly, what I suspect, the one event that I suspect will be the trigger was they will do some sort of event to turn everybody's mind to that, like a 9/11 event. Okay, the elites will pull off some sort of major event, and while everybody's concentrating on that, they're going to be running to the hills. That's why they've concentrated on the planes so much. Think about it. If you were a terrorist, okay, 2 years ago, there was an enormous drought all across the West, okay? Couldn't a terrorist just go around popping flares and throwing them out the windows? I mean, literally, they could have sparked half of America up on fire. But yet they missed these so simple things that they could have done, and they concentrate on the planes, the toughest, with all the high security. Why would they concentrate on all this high security stuff when they have so many easy options to use? That's because they're trying to lock down the airports so that when this event happens, they can say, no flying, and all the elites are going to be flying, just like the Bin Laden family flew on 9/11.
That makes sense.
Okay. So basically, my email address is on here. What I'm looking to do is I'm looking to meet some friends that are interested in talking about this, having weekly meetings here at the bookstore, and kind of planning around this. I'm moving to Colorado June 1st. Whoever decides to come with me,
What part of Colorado are you going to?
I'm going to Denver for now because that's where I have a job.
Malha City?
Take us with you, take us with you. Can you go over the petroglyphs?
Yeah, sure.
And all the, and Baphomet and all that?
Yeah.
Go over that real quick.
Alright, so the petroglyphs, which is really amazing to me, because this really tells a story. Alright. You've got all these amazing petroglyphs of devils and spirals. This is actually the page I wanted to go on. Let me go back to the... Close this out and go back to the first one. I need to hit this a couple times here. Give me a second. Look at that, this Denver airport here. It's a big place.
How big is it?
It's
Totally.
it's the biggest airport in the U.S.
About the Denver airport, there's a lot more to it. It's free. Yeah, but there's a procedure.
All right. So you got this one. This is in New Mexico. Okay. Now keep in mind, once again, before I go in through these, all these petroglyphs are found in the mountainous regions. Okay, along the Andes Mountains, along the Rocky Mountains. They're found west of that, but you don't really find very much. Well, you do some here, but you don't really find any in Florida or any of the East Coast. What I suspect, my own personal belief, and like I said, this is my conjecture, is I suspect, just like you have the world, you got the moon that goes around the world, a tide follows the moon around the world. Okay? If you have a heavy, dense object like a brown dwarf star, a black hole or something, that comes up, the water is going to pile up towards that object because it's liquid. But the world's still going to spin. You got a big mile-high wave, but the world's still spinning on its axis underneath that wave, so the water gets dragged across the land. Why? Since the world spins east to west, there's no petroglyphs on that side of the world because the wave will come from the east just like the sun comes from the east. So that's most likely.
Do you think civilization was crowded up, bumped up against the high points?
Yeah, they were bumped up into these areas because that's all the only place they could run. Now, another interesting thing that they found out recently was that they found, like at the bottom of in Utah and stuff, they found all these dinosaurs, millions and millions of them, that were all piled up together, like they'd been washed up to the mountains by a big wave, and the wave receded and just left their bodies there.
Huge ball.
Okay, yeah, huge piles of dinosaurs, all intermingled together.
Where was that?
Like at the mountains in Utah and stuff. When did they find this? I don't remember. I didn't include that in here because I just recently found it, but I don't know. It's been a couple months, I guess.
Wow.
So they found all these dinosaur bones all intermingled together. It's pretty amazing. So basically, you have all these petroglyphs. Now, remember, it said up in the one that let's see here. Oh, look at this one. It said that there'll be white fingers that come down, white tentacles. You have the little spiral up here, and you've got the devil character breathing out fire, or whatever.
It's like on the bottom left of the dollar bill, in the corners on the front, those little devil things.
Oh, yeah. What most people don't know about the dollar bill, I wish I had a picture, I should have included it on here. If you look at that eyeball on the back of the dollar with a magnifying glass, you'll notice the eye is a perfect spiral. Just like the Norway spiral you saw.
Wow.
The eye is a spiral. Just it goes all the way into the center like that.
What causes a spiral?
You got me. All I know is there's something in space.
Something to do with electromagnetic
Everything
frequencies.
is a spiral.
Yeah, there's something in space that doesn't like our planet.
Supposedly, what I've heard and seen and written, seen actually, and it's just like you said when you first showed it. It's actually an encyclopedia, even though NASA and everybody doesn't want you to know about it. There is what they call Planet X, which stands for 10. And it comes towards Earth. There's a twin sun, but it's a dark sun way off every 3,660 years. This Planet 10 comes real close, but it speeds up once it gets 50% between the dead sun and its twin, our sun. Then it speeds up on our side, and it's already got wobbling. Uranus, Pluto, they're already off their orbit and wobbling. As it comes, it also changes our magnetic field and our orbit, and it comes very, very close.
Yeah, it doesn't actually hit Earth. It just
No,
comes
it
very
doesn't,
close.
but it does cause a lot of comets and meteorites and all of this too.
Quakes.
Well, you can tell it here. He's telling
Earthquakes
you.
and everything.
They're telling you to look up. I mean, he's got the arrow going up. You got the spiral. They're telling you to look out in the spiral.
And that explains why we've had past civilizations that actually knew about this, and we thought they were just myths. And now it's coming out again, because there has been probably many past civilizations.
Yeah, you have all these associations between devils and spirals and little some of these, like these right here, these are actual reproductions of petroglyphs that are in caves that you can't visit anymore for you know, they don't want people disturbing the petroglyphs, but I mean the caves. But I mean, you have an association with the spiral and the dead lizard. Look, he looks like he's.
It looks like an ant.
Yeah, well, it looks like to me it looks like a flower, a plant. And
Look at this.
Also spiral dots in the background.
yeah, oh yeah, you have the spiral dots in the background too, but you have the spiral here with the waves going up to the bottoms of the mountains. You have the deer. Look, he's hunched over. He's running away from it. You got the dead fish. And here you have spiral. You have a ladder. I've also found, which I wasn't able to include in here, but lots and lots of ladders and spirals and goats. Where do goats live?
In the mountains.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you have all these goats, and almost every one, they're trying to tell you, like in this one here, look at this, they have the goats up here, they've got the spiral. This is called newspaper rock. You know, I can only go by what I think these things are. This one here you have, look, the guy grabbing his family. They're all hand in hand. You got the spiral, and you got the goats.
Wow.
Okay? You've got, and this one,
Goats,
goats, men, spiral. Okay, even this one has the line, just like the Norway spiral did. Okay, this one again, spiral, and it looks like this guy over here is telling you, go up, go up. Okay, here another one. Now this is interesting, this is America here. I didn't know that Indians had 10-story buildings in America. Okay, where did these come from? Look, you have a spiral over a city. Whether this is a temple or not, that looks like a pretty tall building because this has 4 stories to it. So this probably is 8, 10 stories. I didn't think we had those back then. It was just teepees and all that. Here's another one. Spiral with the line. I think it's a wave. It looks like a wave to me. Destruction. You know, I can only go by what I see. These people are trying. This is interesting here because look how far they climbed up this to show the goats. Here's the water line, the washout line.
Wow.
They put these goats above here to show how high the water came up to, I believe. And like I said, it's.
Can you talk a little bit about how the goat is represented in occult studies and how?
Well, I don't really go into that much.
Allegedly, some people say that.
Yeah, I mean, I believe. All right. You know when you see the elites flashing the horns like this, okay, or Bohemian Grove, that's just them telling, hey, I know about what the deal is.
Or Baphomet.
Yeah. I mean, I believe that it all comes from the same thing. That the.
Do you have any pictures of Baphomet?
Oh, okay. No, I didn't really get too much into conjecture in this. Like I said, the most conjecture I got was in the
Everyone Google Baphomet. It's the satanic goat god. Classically.
B-A-H.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so they all these, and this is just, you know, 1,000. These things are not. There's not 10 of these. There's not 50 of these. There's thousands of these same spirals everywhere. Except they're not everywhere. They're in the mountains, and you see a lot of them have the line going through it. You know, like the spiral that we saw. Now, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff. It's going to take you a long time to go through this presentation and see this. You know what I'll do real quick though? I will go back to the Norway spiral, so y'all can get another look at that.
Hey Lucas, when you showed that part about the graph where it showed the effect of the Chandler wobble,
right?
Did it enlarge it or shrink it any, or what was the?
No, there was just an anomaly in it where the normal wobble, it had a dip in the normal. There was an anomaly in it basically where the wobble wasn't normal.
I mean, you'd have to expand one way or
yeah.
the other. I was just wondering if it was trying to work.
It actually stopped. The wobble actually stopped and then restarted up again. So I mean, look at this. Anybody could tell that that's not a rocket. I mean, that's not a rocket. And I'm sorry anybody says that it is a rocket. You're wrong. It's not a rocket.
Did you hear also about the Ice Age? It was a sudden, very quick thing.
Exactly.
It wasn't something that it was a gradual thing. It was absolutely sudden.
Like the day after tomorrow.
Do you think the poles are reversing or?
Getting off of our.
I don't know. I just think what happens is we've got an event that happens, and those who live at high ground survive it. That's why the elites are moving to the hills.
I mean, the poles do reverse.
Well, yeah, they do. They found with the magma that the poles actually. What happens when liquid magma comes out? When it solidifies, its molecules are facing towards the north. Okay, and that's how they're able to tell where the poles used to be, because the magma is magnetic, so it lines up with true north. So that's why they're able to tell. Yes, there has been pole shifts, definitely.
Are we talking about an asteroid or a pole shift?
We're talking about a heavy, dense object. We're talking about basically a very heavy, dense object that affects the oceans. It basically has an electromagnetic interaction with the sun and the planet Earth. And I mean, looking back at the Exodus, for instance. Okay, they had unhealable boils. Okay, they had. What did Moses do? Moses threw the serpent into the water, and it turned red. Once again, we go back to the serpent. Okay, it's all about the serpent and what the serpent does. So. There's just, I try not to get into religion too much because everybody's got their point of view on that. I don't
It's so rich with symbolism.
Yes,
it delivers a lot of messages just in simple words if you don't go literal.
Yeah, so that's basically the gist of it. If y'all want copies of it, it's up there for free. You can all have a copy. And
where is this thing now?
It was seen on what is it?
This way.
About how far out is it?
I don't know. Let's go back to the picture real quick.
Coming to a theater soon near you.
Of the Earth that far away?
Well, this thing right here could be, to me, what I believe personally is that this is a line of plasma going to the sun. Okay, you see it moving across the sky. The sun is also rising over the horizon. Okay, so. The sun is actually rising right about to rise right here.
Oh, that's that connection how I'd be leveling out the rays of the sun. You know how it's smoothed out and it has a more elongated, consistent stretch instead of...
See the sun rays come up here? You see the brightness of the sun starting to come up?
That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. So that object looks like it's interacting with our sun. And...
well, do you know about Project Bluebeam?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with Bluebeam. And
you know Freeman?
Yeah, well, what I was going to say about Bluebeam is, let me ask you this question. Would the government base everything that they've worked on for decades, trillions of dollars, would they all base it upon an event that they're going to use holograms to trick the public and then declassify the documents and tell everybody about it? Think about that. Would they spend their whole entire fortunes in their lives working on an event, and their whole event is based upon tricking people with holograms of Jesus and all that in the air, and then go ahead and declassify the documents and tell everybody about it? Would that make any sense? No, to me, I think Bluebeam is the disinformation.
You know, it might not matter later.
The what?
The Moscow Pyramid, that was a few days after this spiral.
Yes, I saw the Moscow Pyramid. It was pretty interesting.
About that?
I just know I saw it. I don't know whether to believe it or not. I saw it on YouTube. Right after this event happened, there was a giant pyramid that hovered over Moscow for a whole day. Okay, gigantic pyramid. I mean, it was like a half a mile wide. I don't know whether it was a CGI that somebody made that video or not, so I didn't put it on here because I can't prove it now.
There were a lot of different videos.
Well, there's two different ones that I saw so far. I haven't seen any more but two.
August a year ago, the Austin American Statesman had an article about the head of the mine studies here at UC, which is one of the top mine studies, and he said they messed up. They think now they retranslated it. The correct translation is 2112.
What?
Is the end of the mine calendar, and that's one of the top mine people in the world. So I can't find anything else about it. I can't even.
Yeah,
it's coming out of the University of Texas.
I found out that there's so much disinformation out there right now. It's hard. That's why I only trust the ancients. I only trust what those ancient people are telling me because they don't have any vested interest in tricking me.
And it wasn't only the Mayans; it was other.
Right. That's the thing. I trust those petroglyphs more than I trust any one of you people because I don't know. You don't know.
Sure, don't trust UT.
So basically, I trusted people who didn't have tricking me. There's one particular band who's very familiar with this. Soundgarden. They've written a lot of songs about this. Remember Black Hole Sun? Okay, most of their songs actually talk about this. And like in Spoon Man, he says, all my friends are brown and red, all my friends are Indians, all my friends are skeletons. They beat the rhythm with their bones. Because they're the only ones that ain't lying to us. And that's what I believe. And so that pretty much comes to the conclusion of this whole deal. If, you know, like I said, y'all can get a free copy. It's going to take you forever to go through this stuff. There's a lot of information on it.
Are you going to continue to have more discussions like this? Or?
Well, what I wanted to do was, on the disc, right, my email address is on the disc. Okay, y'all can email me. We can set up a time to meet here once a week or whatever, once every 2 weeks. We can discuss what we're going to do about this. I'm leaving for Colorado June 1st, come hell or high water, no pun intended. But I'm getting out of here because I don't. Oh, that's another thing I want to show you. Hold on a second before you all go. I got something I want to show you.
How can you take notes on this? It's going to be hard.
They're not
Keith
good
needs to look up.
because they're very, you know.
That's going to be a hard video to take back to them and try to explain it. Were you recording his whole talk, the whole thing? What are you going to do with it?
I'm going to put it on the internet. It'll be probably on about 4 different video sites.
What are you going to call it? How do we look at it?
I'm not sure yet. I'm going to go back and look at the Brave New Books email and see how he. I guess search Brave New Books.
I dug this up out of my backyard.
And
okay, this is a regular fossil.
Will be the best
okay, regular fossil you can find around here, a conch shell. Okay, you see that? It's turned to stone. Okay, this is what a fossil should look like. Stone, that's what a fossil is. You can find these laying all over the ground here in Texas. They are not fossils. The last time this place was underwater was tens of millions of years ago. Anything that you find should be turned to stone. These were washed in at some point in time, thousands of years ago. Why do you find these laying on top of the ground?
Show it.
What is it?
It's a clamshell.
Oh, yeah.
Anybody that lives in Texas knows you can find these all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, but they're not fossils. That's the key. That tells you they're years old.
Yeah, there's a bunch of sharks along the creek in Northwest Austin. It's a good archaeological site.
Here, I'll put before I blast. I'll play a quick video for you. It's a little music video. Let's see here.
Search Brave New Books in today's date.
In today's date. Okay.
I'll try to put lots of keywords to help people. Yeah. FloydAnderson.com.
It will be there, right?
There's a link to my YouTube channel.
All right, I'll leave you on with the video, and then I got a blast pretty soon here. But
Thank you.
Sure.